Welcome to TechDaily.ai. This deep dive is sponsored by StoneFly, your trusted solution provider and advisor in enterprise storage, backup disaster recovery, hyper-converged VMware, Hyper-V, Proxmox cluster, AI servers, SA365, a turnkey security appliance, public and private cloud. You can find out more over at stonefly.com. Today, we're diving deep into the world of high-performance computing, HPC.
Yeah, HPC. It's a term that might sound a bit, distant, like secret labs and things.
Right.
But its impact is really, really tangible. Think about your weather app, for instance. The calculations behind that, that's HPC.
Or developing new medicines, the simulations involved there.
Exactly. Or even the AI assistants we use every single day, that the power needed for that, a lot of it comes from HPC principles and tech.
It's incredible. And for the last 40 years or so, HPC has kind of been the engine behind so many scientific and engineering breakthroughs.
It really has. But, we're at a really interesting point now, a turning point, maybe.
Hmm.
Well, the decisions being made right now by governments, researchers, industry, they're going to have a huge impact on innovation, national security, even like global leadership in tech.
Okay, so fundamentally, what is HPC?
At its core, it's about tackling problems that are just, well, too big, too complex for regular computers.
We're talking supercomputers, right?
Exactly. These massive systems with thousands, sometimes millions of processors all working together in parallel.
And it's not just the processors, is it? It's the whole system.
Oh, absolutely. You need incredibly advanced memory and storage, too, designed to handle just colossal amounts of data really, really fast.
And with that kind of power, what can you actually do?
So much. Imagine modeling exactly how a potential new drug interacts with proteins in the body, down to the molecular level.
Wow, before even starting clinical trials.
Precisely. Or tracking a hurricane's path with much greater accuracy days ahead. That gives people crucial time to prepare.
Okay, I see. So it's simulations, modeling.
Yeah, and in all sorts of fields. Designing more fuel-efficient cars, finding better ways to produce energy, exploring space. The list just goes on.
And you mentioned AI earlier. That connection seems really important now.
It's huge. The recent explosion in AI, things like voice recognition, self-driving cars, training those models takes just immense computing power.
Which is where HPC comes in.
Right. HPC systems are sort of perfectly suited for that kind of heavy lifting. So you get this really interesting synergy, this feedback loop. AI needs HPC, and advances in AI can actually help design better HPC systems.
It's pushing both fields forward then.
Definitely.
And the scale is just mind-boggling. Oh, what's the top machine right now? El Capitan?
Yeah, El Capitan at Lawrence Livermore National Lab. An incredible machine. But, even with these amazing systems, there's still some pretty significant technical hurdles to overcome.
Okay, like what? What are the big challenges?
Well, one major one is this growing gap between how fast the processors can crunch numbers and how fast the memory system can actually feed them the data they need.
Ah, the memory bottleneck, like having a supercar stuck in traffic.
That's a great analogy, yeah. Processors end up just waiting for data, and that really limits the overall efficiency. It slows down how quickly we can actually get results from these massive simulations.
And I guess the other big one is energy. I've heard these things use a lot of power.
Oh, yeah. We're talking power consumption on the scale of a small town for some of the biggest systems.
Wow. That's costly, obviously, but also a sustainability issue.
Absolutely. And it's tricky because for a long time there was this trend, Dennard scaling, where smaller components were also more power efficient.
Right. I remember that.
But that basically ended around the mid-2000s. So now, generally speaking, more computing power means using significantly more energy, finding ways around that with new hardware, new software designs. That's a huge focus for researchers.
Okay, another potential issue you hear about is chips.
Right.
The focus of the chip industry.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. A lot of the momentum in chip design right now is driven by AI.
And AI often uses, lower precision math.
Right. Often 16-bit, sometimes even 8-bit calculations are enough for training AI models. But many critical scientific simulations, the kind HPC is built for, they need much higher precision, like 64-bit, to be accurate.
So is there a risk that the chips best suited for science might become harder to get or more expensive?
It's a potential concern, yeah. If the big market driver is lower precision AI chips, the availability and cost of high-precision chips needed for fundamental science could be affected. It could potentially slow down research progress in some areas.
Could we see more custom-built chips just for HPC then?
It's possible, but making custom chips is really expensive and complex.
So what's the alternative?
Well, one area people are exploring is chiplets. These are like
Hmm.
small, specialized chips, almost like Lego bricks that you can combine in different ways.
Okay, modular chips.
Exactly. The idea is that this could make building powerful, high-precision processors more flexible and maybe more cost-effective for specific HPC needs.
It definitely sounds like nations see HPC as strategically vital. We're seeing big investments globally, right?
Oh, absolutely. Look at Europe's Euro HPC initiative. That's a huge collaboration aiming for, well, technological independence and leadership in supercomputing. They're focusing on things like climate change modeling, personalized medicine.
And Japan, they have Fugaku, right?
Yeah, Fugaku is a massive resource supporting both academic research and industry use cases. And then there's China, which has made just incredible strides developing some of the world's fastest machines using their own homegrown tech.
So everyone recognizes this is key for national security, economic strength, scientific leadership.
Without a doubt.
Where does the U.S. fit in? Historically a leader, but
Well, the U.S. recently completed the Exascale Computing Project, which was a huge success. They hit that milestone of a quintillion calculations per second exaflops.
which is amazing. Opens up totally new science possibilities.
Totally. But, and this is the interesting part, there isn't currently a really clear long-term follow-on strategy articulated at the national level for what comes next after Exascale.
So potential risk of falling behind if others keep pushing hard with clear plans.
That's the concern, yeah. Given how fast other nations are moving, the lack of a sort of cohesive long-term vision could become a disadvantage.
If the U.S. were to put together a national strategy, what would need to be in it?
You'd need several key pieces, I think. Sustained funding, obviously, not just for buying new machines, but for the R&D into next-gen hardware and software. And crucially, training people to actually use these complex systems effectively.
Partnerships would be key too, I imagine.
Definitely. Strong links between universities, the national labs, and private industry. And it has to cover the whole stack, hardware, software, algorithms, applications, not just one piece.
Okay, looking even further ahead, quantum computing, everyone's talking about it. How does that fit into the HPC picture?
Yeah, quantum is fascinating. It's a completely different way of computing based on quantum mechanics.
And it promises to solve problems that are impossible for even today's biggest supercomputers.
That's the potential, yes, for certain types of problems.
Right.
But it's still very early days for quantum. And importantly, most experts see it as likely complementing classical HPC, not replacing it entirely, at least not for a long time.
So we still need to invest heavily in traditional HPC, even with quantum on the horizon.
Absolutely. You need both. Investing in both is probably the smartest path forward to cover all computational needs.
Are there any positive signs in the U.S. on the policy front?
There are some, yeah. The Teach IPS and Science Act from 2022 is a big one. It aims to boost chip manufacturing here in the U.S. and help move research ideas into actual products faster.
Okay, that's helpful.
And there's a new task force, Vision for American Science and Technology, led by Sudip Parikh from SSS. The idea is to get nonprofits, academia, industry all talking to guide government decisions. Plus, the private sector's pouring money into data centers and AI infrastructure.
Right. But you're saying these steps, while good, might not be enough for the specific long-term needs of HPC itself.
They don't necessarily add up to that coordinated long-term HPC strategy we talked about.
So what are the absolute must-haves for sustained U.S. leadership in HPC? Let's break it down.
Okay, I think number one is long-term predictable federal investment in HPC R&D. That means hardware, software, and especially finding more energy-efficient ways to compute.
Right. And then actually buying and deploying the latest machines.
Exactly.
That's
Getting leading-edge systems into the national labs and universities where researchers can use them.
Workforce development seems critical too. Training people.
Hugely important. We need people skilled in parallel programming, numerical methods, how to combine AI and HPC. That takes dedicated training programs.
And making sure the chip industry doesn't forget about science needs.
Yeah, finding ways to align commercial chip development with what scientific and engineering applications require. That high precision capability we mentioned.
Funding stability is probably key as well. Avoiding these boom and bust cycles.
Definitely. Sustainable funding models are needed so research isn't constantly disrupted by shifting short-term priorities.
And finally, those partnerships you mentioned earlier.
Public-private collaboration,
Okay.
yeah. Connecting the dots between academic discovery, industry innovation, and national security needs. It all needs to work together.
So when you put it all together, it's clear HPC isn't just about building the fastest computer.
Not at all. It's really the bedrock, the foundation for so much scientific discovery, for economic growth, and yes, for national security.
And the implication is the U.S. needs a clear plan to stay ahead.
I think so, yeah. A coordinated plan that involves investing smartly in hardware, developing better software and algorithms, training the workforce, and building those strong partnerships. That seems essential for continued leadership.
So what does all this really mean for you listening? Well, high-performance computing might sound abstract, maybe a bit removed, but it directly influences the technology you interact with daily.
hmm The medicines that might become available, our understanding of climate change, the efficiency of products,
Yeah.
it all ties back.
Right. So the challenges and investments we've been talking about today, they're genuinely shaping the future of innovation across so many different areas. And speaking of crucial infrastructure that enables all this, our sponsor StoneFly offers cutting-edge solutions for enterprise needs.
Yeah, they provide trusted solutions and expert advice in areas like enterprise storage, backup and disaster recovery, hyper-converged setups for VMware, Hyper-V, Proxmox.
AI servers too, and their SA365 turnkey security appliance, all deployable across public and private clouds. Definitely check them out at stonefly.com for more details.
And related to the massive data needs of HPC and AI, StoneFly has something quite specific right now.
Oh,
Their 100 TB immutable and air-gapped SR NAS. It's available now for $8,995.
okay, 100 terabytes, immutable air-gapped. That really highlights the kind of serious, secure storage solutions needed in this data-heavy world, including HPC.
Exactly. It's the kind of infrastructure that underpins these massive computational efforts.
So it leaves us with a final thought to ponder. As HPC keeps evolving at this incredible pace,
Yeah.
what future breakthroughs, powered by this technology, do you think will be the most transformative for society?
That's a great question. The potential is just immense, isn't it? Climate, health, materials, science.
It really is a landscape that's constantly changing and full of possibilities.